And we're off. Hey, everybody, it's Dan Boul, president of 65 Amps. Pardon the microphone in my face. We had a horrible technical start to the day, so we're improvising here really quick just so we can get the show going. Today's February 5th, 2014. I just want to say happy birthday to my father, Harry Boul. You're 70 years old today, but you're still 29 to me, buddy.
And happy birthday to Ben's mother tomorrow, which is today.
And Ben's mother, who's in New Zealand, so she's lost a day out of her life because it's the 6th there. She started early, but it doesn't matter. You're missing a day. Your whole calendar. 364 days a year in New Zealand.
And yesterday to my mom.
And yesterday to Howard's mom. Howard Johnson's here. We got a big Sofa King set up today. So there's Miles Rose and Ben Fulton from Red Witch Pedals. And one of my favorite singers in the world, Howard Johnson, is here. So we're just goofing off, having fun. I thought I'd give you guys a taste of whiskey, taste of the whiskey. And I'm running it through my 112 cabinet. Fröhlich Geburtstag, vielen Dank. Yeah, man. Go on Facebook. My father's name is Harry Boul. Wish him happy birthday. He'll freak out. Who are all these people? So anyway, Pop, I'm very glad you were born. Love you. So let's talk about amps and guitars. I got the whiskey, finally. And it's working right. And we've got the... I don't care about new Celestion speakers, Rick. We can talk about that on Celestion's show. Howard Johnson is right. This is the Howard Johnson who is always on the show, but today he's actually on the show. For all of you Mel Brooks fans, you know what that means. Howard Johnson is right. The governor is an asshole. But anyway, so the whiskey. Let's talk about the whiskey. The whiskey is a pair of 6L6s. It's a higher gain amp than we've done before. I got a shadow right on my face, don't I? La, la, la. I don't have a black eye. There we go. We'll just do it like this. This is a pretty funky setup. We really had some problems today. Problems with the guitar mics and the vocal mics, and just one of those days where there's a ghost in the studio. It's a pair of 6L6s. It is higher gain than we've done before. I worked on this amp with my good friend Dave Friedman, who is I think one of the masters of gain, right? I do things really, really different than Dave, but we both like each other's amps. So we had a lot of fun. So this is built like a 65. It's got all my components, my little formula for what kind of plate resistors I like, and blah, 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 blah. Only he showed me how to do a master volume the way he does it. And it's fantastic. So I have a master volume, and then there's a clean channel also, which goes completely outside of the master circuit. So you can actually play a lot louder clean than dirty if you want to, which is really odd. I get that request a lot. Sorry, I'm hiccuping here. I get that request a lot these days, especially from Nashville guys. Hey, Bob. Bob Kulick's here. Especially from my Nashville artists. They want to play louder clean than they do dirty. So you can't do that, obviously, with the traditional master volume amp, but this one you can. So I'm playing Brett's Les Paul today because mine's still back in the palette of stuff from NAMM. So I'm playing with 9s, which I normally don't do, and it's a little hotter pickups than I use, but you'll get the idea. And we'll just run through the whiskey really quick and hopefully have some questions or thoughts. I don't know if you can tell on the show, but it's a little different aesthetic. This is salt and pepper grill cloth with silver piping around it. I don't think the silver piping's showing up on the show. The logo is lit, and it's just a different thing. The panel's glossy black. And it's called the whiskey. And a lot of guys ask me, why did you call it the whiskey? It's kind of a double entendre for the Whiskey A Go-Go and whiskey. It's... There was a sound. I used to play on the Sunset Strip in the 80s, and there was a sound that guys had then before all the Uber gain amps came. And it was a really cool sound. I wasn't a big fan of music from that period. Some of it was great. I mean, one of my most favorite memories is watching Motley Crue play at the Whiskey. After Girls, Girls, Girls came out, and they came back and did this sort of, I don't know, homecoming show, because they were one of the real big Sunset Strip bands. And and I went and saw them play at the Whiskey. And I always thought Mickey Mars had a really cool guitar sound. And Crew had a few songs that I really liked, but I just wasn't the makeup spandex kind of guy. But so we're trying to get a little bit of that sound, and then maybe a little more in a smaller, friendlier version. Because I'm not playing very loud here, even though it's all mic'd up. So the feel on this amp is really different than most 65s. It's very encouraging, very forgiving. You want to play fast and you want to take chances. And it's that sound. To me, it was the sound of when I was a kid. And I kind of walked away from that sound as I got older. So to do this, I had to kind of unleash 1987 Dan. And you're digging the sound. This is through my 112 extension cabinet. I'm going to have a new 212 ready next week. It's a little deeper than our normal 212, so you can get that big grunt out of it. And you can have fun. So I've got the masters on just under 3, the gains at about 7. And then let me switch over to the clean channel. The clean channel, I'm at 1.5 right here, right? And I think I'm actually killing Ustream because the clean sound is louder than the dirty. We kind of mic'd it all up and set levels for the dirty sound. So, what about a vertical 212? I get a couple of requests for that, and when it comes down to it, nobody buys it. I got 2 or 3 guys that ask for that, and then when I talk to stores, none of them will stock them. They tell me that every amp company gets talked into doing a vertical 212, and then they never get sold. Firebird Bob, no, a 412 is great with this amp. I just wanted to show it off with our little Elvis 112, which is a really fat sounding 112. I really feel like I'm in a dirty movie here. So you can, get a lot of big sound. You could turn the horizontal 212 on the side. That's a good point. Miles brings up.
Some people even put speaker feet on one side.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, there's 4 guys here going, yeah, that would be cool. But it's like amps with 10-inch speakers. Everybody goes, oh, yeah, I love amps with 10-inch speakers. And we made a couple. No one buys them. So it's not really worth it for me to design and do a production run on a cabinet unless I can sell about 50 of them or something. Because we do it on a CNC machine, and I got to pay a guy with programming skills to do it. In reality, I think I'll probably sell 5 of them. Uh-oh. So selling price, good question, Jason. Selling price on this head is $26.95. So this is kind of in between our red line and our blue line stuff. What was that? I heard a big noise. Oh, I'm sorry. It comes through weird on the microphone. If someone wanted to buy one of your 65s, where could they go to do that? Thank you for the softball question, Anita. I love you for that. We can buy them at a lot of dealers if you go to our website, and we have national dealers as well, like Sweetwater and Musician's Friend. But you can, hey, Duke. Man, dude, I read your thing this morning. I hope you're okay, man. Crazy. I hope you're all right, man. Take good care of yourself, buddy. Tins are what they are. Everyone likes them, but no one wants to buy them. So exactly what all my dealers told me is they've talked to 4 or 5 boutique guys who got talked into making a vertical 212 or tens, and they spent a lot of money doing it, and they just went and sat in the dealer's store for 2 years. Which the dynamic you got to realize is if I make something and convince a dealer that they should buy it, If they don't sell it, they're not buying new things from me. Their money is very, very linear. And if they're sitting on things that they can't move, they don't buy the new stuff. I've had a couple dealers I've had to just let go because they said, well, I still have a Monterey, so I'm not going to buy any other amps, which is kind of like saying I'm not going to buy eggs and milk because I'm out of, Mexican sauce. Or because I still have some Mexican sauce left in the aisle. You have to have milk and eggs, and for my dealers, they got to be able to stock our new stuff. So if I push stuff on them that's not going to move, they get very unhappy with me quickly. And a lot of guys don't understand that dynamic very well. So I got to be very mindful of that. So let's run through some different gain levels on the whiskey. No, Anita, I don't sell through my website, actually. You can look on our website for dealers. And it depends on where you are. Tell me where you live. I'll tell you the closest dealer. But we also have a search tool on our website. You can put in your zip code, and it'll tell you the nearest dealer to you. If you're more than 100 miles away from a dealer, I'd order it through Sweetwater or Musician's Friend. They both have a 30-day return policy. They don't sell any cheaper than anyone else, and you still, you're not getting a better deal from Sweetwater or from Musician's Friend, but you get the ability to try the amp out and return it if you're unhappy. Let's see. With respect to the whiskey, how does a master volume design affect the tone across the volume? Well, I'll just show it to you. It's easier for me to do it. So right now I've got the master down pretty low, but I can run it really low. Still sounds really good. And then I can turn it up. I hope I don't kill Ustream here. Let me turn down the whole board here for a second. I'm killing the preamps doing that, but you get the idea. I can run the gain up a little hotter here. Let me turn this back up now. I can run the gain up on the amp a little higher. But if I run the gain back down, that was with a gain about 8.5, 9. Run the gain down to 4. This is a post-master master volume, so there's a little phase inverter distortion going on too. I can take it down to, this is with a gain on 2. So a very, vintage 70s kind of sound. That is the 65 logo lighting up. You are correct, sir. Damn Gibson. So gain back up to 8. Yes, it does still clean up with the guitar volume, it's that kind of clean sound, right? But you can just go to the clean channel. Fire Bottle asks a great question. When is the whiskey going to show up on your site? Hopefully next week. And is it available now at Sweetwater? You can pre-order it at Sweetwater. We're probably not going to be able to ship this amp for about 5-6 weeks. We're waiting on transformers from Magnetic Components in Chicago. And they're making them for us and getting them out. So we're doing it as fast as we can. The problem is we kind of got overwhelmed with orders at NAMM, and I had to place a pretty large order for transformers, and it's going to take a while. Compared to my producer, what can I expect with this amp? More gain, definitely. It's a much different dynamic. You know, your producer doesn't have a master volume on it. Also, your producer is voiced to be pretty wide open. This is a hot-rodded Marshall platform, only we're doing it with 6L6s. So it's a different era of tone. It's a different feel. This amp is a lot more forgiving than most of my other amps. Yeah, and your producer's cathode bias. This is grid bias, so this amp's a little stiffer, a little faster. They're very different animals altogether.
Make a cool stereo rig.
It would make a very cool stereo rig. The channel switching might get kind of complex because you got 4 choices on the producer and only 2 on this. This amp also has an active FET-driven buffered effects loop on it that's Dave Friedman's loop that all the expensive amps in the world license, and since I'm friends with Dave, I get a license it really cheap. So it's arguably the best effects loop in the business. With this much gain, I can't get away with a passive loop, you know. So very different feel. Like I said earlier, this is just kind of going back to something I did when I was in my early 20s. But you can take it all the way down to, you know. There's no foot switch on the loop. I assume you're going to use your pedals to turn off or on. There's a switch on the loop. You can turn it off or on. There's a loop level, but it's internal. You have to preset it. Now this is a G12H30. It's a 112 you're listening to, Butch. This is my little 112 cabinet. Imagine it through a big cabinet. It might sound better. Hi, Fire Bottle. No, the grill cloth this is a black and white salt and pepper grill cloth. It has silver piping around it, but you can't really see it on the webcam. It's got really pretty silver piping around it. And the panel is like shiny, glassy black instead of the satin matte thing we normally do. And the logo is lit. You can see I can turn it off or on. See? Ta-da! Pretty fun, huh?
Dan?
Yes.
Didn't you, when you were doing some of the prototypes of this, wasn't it on some earlier shows through Brett's 412 cab?
Yeah, you know, I brought it here, but that day it wasn't working right.
Oh, okay.
I was just faking it through the show because well, it's the first time I've heard it through microphones. Maybe something's wrong, but uh, thank you, Brian Lee. Um, how would it look with whiskey colored Tolex? If you can find me some, I'll try it. Tolex options are pretty limited. But I put some really high res pictures on Facebook. They look kind of weird when they size them down. It makes the grill cloth look wavy because it's, checkered. If you can blow that up, you can see. I'm going to put the full res versions up probably tomorrow. Yeah, I can grab. I got Bob's Strat here. Or it's Bruce Kulick's Strat, I think. Mostly deft. Does 65 have any closed back cabs? Only our 412s. I'm not a big fan of closed back 212s. You have to make them really big to do that. I like them thinner with a tune point. Why did you keep the E in whiskey? Well, that's a good question. There's a lot of arguments over how to spell the word whiskey. And Google it. It's accurate either way. Usually Irish whiskey and American whiskey is spelled with an E, and Scotch whiskey is spelled without the E. So I wanted the little double entendre of the whiskey a go-go, which is spelled without the E, because the original whiskey a go-go was actually in Paris. But then there's sort of the crazy volatility of American bourbon. So it's a little bit of both. A little bit of both. But if you actually Google the word whiskey, it'll tell you in there that either spelling is correct. There's no right or wrong. But, we're American guys. And made in America. And someone, a little bit of that in there. But, could have gone either way. No real reason. Hey, could you hand me that Sunburst Strat over there?
I'm going to be uploading a picture of the back panel on this one.
Okay. Miles is uploading a picture of the back panel on this amp here in a moment.
The Sunburst Strat.
There's a 50s looking Strat over there, I think. Right in front of you.
You mean...
To the left. Left. That?
Well, this is an ESP, but it's not a...
Oh, he usually has this regular old Strat over there.
No, this is a single...
Oh, my green one's there. You can just give me the
that's
green one.
right.
I didn't realize that was there. I do have a guitar here. Thank you. All right. This Strat picks up every noise in this room. I got lights here on Variax, and it makes it horrible. Let's see here. Let's see. Let me get this thing tuned for a Strat. Well, the noise is too much, isn't it? This guitar needs a little work. This is the one Ron Ellis did the pickup swap right here in the studio, and I think we missed a ground somewhere. Let me try one of those other Stratty kind of guitars. This thing's just making too much noise. Is it that other one the only one that has single coils in it? That ESP?
Yeah, you got the ESP, and it's just a single coil in the bridge position. It's a hot rodded.
Okay. Floyd Rose kind of thing. Oh, that's a humbucker.
Yeah.
Ah. Well, you're going to have to wait for single coil stuff. Well, let's just chat for a few minutes now that we're talking. So what do you guys think? What are your thoughts? What are your questions? What can I tell you? And then we'll bring my good buddy Ben and Miles and Howard over here, and we'll have a roundtable discussion about abortion, religion, gay marriage, and legalization of marijuana. Simple subjects. What did I miss here? You guys were asking some questions. Awesome looking. Thank you, Fire Bottle. Miles, have you uploaded that picture yet?
Yeah, I threw it on my Facebook page, but
Look on Miles' Facebook page, Miles Rose, MYLES Rose, and you can.
MYLESR in Facebook. But if you just look.
No, if you just type in the name Miles Rose, you'll show up. If you're not already friends with him. What's the consensus on a cabinet for the Little Elvis? The Little Elvis 112, I think, is the one you should use. Can I have it? Yes, you can, Firebird Bob. Evolution 2, that's right, Randy, thank you. We're going to talk about evolution. It's not really much of an argument, though, is it? Firebird Bob, legalization of marijuana, yeah. We want to stay away from the risky stuff since I'm working on the whiskey. Fills the audio selections from 65. Thanks. Yeah, I'm going to play it again and again over the show. Dave Keene says, sounds great. Hurry up and ship some to the UK. Well, John Priest at Peach Guitar has ordered a pile of them. So you shall see them. And then the other thing I'm going to do with this, hopefully by April, is make it in a 112 combo. Because it just sounds so great through this 112 cabinet that you've been listening to. I kind of want to offer it that way, and it'll fit. It's going to be kind of heavy, but it should be like a seriously flame-throwing grab and go.
Won't be any heavier than a 212 Marshall combo.
Oh, it'll be less than that, yeah. Yeah, Miles points out correctly, it'll be
A lot of people use those.
lighter than a Marshall 212 combo. Be lighter than most 212 combos. It does have some pretty beefy transformers and a heavy magnet speaker. So how many amps are available from 65? How much money you got? Oh, I think we got about 8 models, something like that.
I just posted the back panel on the fans of 65 site as well.
And Miles just posted the picture on the fans of 65 amp site as well. Thank you, Miles. You mentioned tubes are getting worse and worse. Do you attribute this to manufacturing methods or quality material? Oh, there's a few things. The main problem that I see is that all these things are made on 50-year-old machinery, which just doesn't work that well anymore. And then also, it's not state-of-the-art technology, so you don't get the cream of the crop people running these factories. They're smart, they're intelligent, they're skilled. I don't mean it in any other way that's disrespectful. Yes, it is still hand-wired, Bob. That's correct. I don't mean to be disrespectful to anybody, but they're just, you don't get rich making tubes. You know, you get rich making computers. You get rich making iPhones. You know, all this kind of stuff. Yes, Miles?
The issue of the machinery making it is
Uh-huh.
not as much of an issue.
Come over to a microphone, because then I have to just repeat what you say. Grab that mic and bring it over. Ladies and gentlemen, Miles Rose. I'm going to scoot over here so you can get on camera. This mic is killing me. It's hilarious.
Okay, is this working?
Yeah, it works really
Okay.
well.
Yeah, the issue is not as much
Got to talk into it.
the issue is not as much clearance.
There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, the issue is not as much clearance on the machinery.
Yeah.
That has to do with the consistency a lot, where tubes are very inconsistent. The main
Right.
issue that you run into today is just really bad materials and sometimes bad design where somebody changed
Yeah.
some inherent, as an example.
Or they economized or whatever.
Yeah, it's just junk inside.
Yeah.
And the current new tube that I was talking to Dan about
Right.
a little earlier. There's a new Tungsol KT150 that's supposed to run at 800 plate volts and 600 screen volts or
Right. It
something.
runs at half that.
Well, if you put it at that rated voltage, one of the tubes blew up on the way
Yeah,
to
you said
try
the other
to.
one lasted 8 minutes.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
Which is 5 more than I would have guessed.
yeah.
Well, no, we've talked about this a lot on the show, and it seems to me that, I talk to Miles and I read a lot and I talk to a lot of other tube guys, and it seems that, there's three crucial factors to making a good tube. You have to have really, really pure, correct cathode material. You have to have excellently wound grids on the tube, and you have to be able to pump a really hard vacuum for all of those, for the other elements of the tube to function at their best. And it seems like no one's really doing any of those now. Some guys have a better vacuum than others. Some guys have better grids than others. Some have better cathodes than others. But nobody's.
Typically, short life though is
Yeah.
because there's so many
Gotta talk right into this.
there's so many impurities
Right.
in the
In the cathode, right?
not just the cathode, even in the plates.
You really?
The plates
Just
emanate
dirty elements?
dirty crap,
Right.
out of there, and that's what's killing the life out of these things. As far as the a hard vacuum tube will generally last longer, but hard vacuum tubes, that was a USA thing.
Right.
European was soft vacuum, and EL34s.
But even
are
the
very-
European ones are a harder vacuum than what we buy now, though, isn't it?
for the most part. I mean, like the
Yeah.
worst EL34, the shortest lived EL34 on the market
Yeah.
is made here in America. It's the Electro Harmonics
Yeah.
EL34.
Well, that's made in Russia.
Well,
Sold
yeah,
here in
that's
America.
true.
Made by an American
Yeah, it's
company.
made at the reflector plant in
Yeah.
Moscow.
Miles' mic is too low. I know. It's hard. We have issues with mics. I can just push the whole system here a little bit. Yeah, you just got to kind of use your outdoor voice, like old days of radio.
Hey there.
Yeah, there you go. That's better. See, watch the meter. You can see.
But one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I could get the shadow off my face, it'd be a lot easier to watch this show.
But
I think.
basically, I think Dan has talked about most of this, the problems that we're seeing today.
Oh no, Bob, it's not impossible at all. There's just nobody doing it. It's very possible.
There were some people that were doing a tube called I published some data on it called the Northern Electric out of Canada 12AX7. And initially the tube was really made in China,
Yeah.
but initially it looked good. And because it was coming out of the Shiguang plant, I was a little bit suspect because that's where our groove tubes 12AX7M came
Right.
from.
Which might have been one of the worst preamp tubes ever made.
Well, it was as time went on. It was the best best production 12AX7 I had seen for the first run,
Right.
and then second.
you
run,
gave me one of those good
second,
ones.
Third, fourth run, and got to the point where it was ridiculous.
Right.
Same thing happened with these Northern Electrics. Initially, I thought, well, if they can hold on to this, it's going to be pretty cool, and they didn't.
Well, so Firebird Bob sounds like a niche for 65. Well, I'm working on a project to do that in the background, but it's about a $10 million startup. So if you know anybody that's got an extra 10 mil laying around that they want to throw up in the air for a decade, let me know. It's a long process to start from scratch, because for me, the key isn't just buying old machinery and putting it all in a building and trying to make it work. It's using modern techniques and modern methods and computer-driven equipment, and a lot of which you have to design from scratch. Some of it you don't, but
You don't necessarily even have to use the same old design methodologies.
Right.
If you look at what the Blackburn factory was doing about
Mm-hmm.
half a dozen years ago, they were doing a 12AX7, and I have some pictures of it
we
posted
tested them at the
somewhere.
shop. Yeah, they were good
They,
tubes.
they were great. But looking inside of the tube, it looks nothing like
It looks like an
12AX7.
eighth grader made it in shop.
You know, I mean, it almost looks like there's two FETs inside of this glass bottle.
Yeah.
But the thing worked and traced and sounded remarkably good.
Yeah, it was a great tube.
But they stopped doing it because
I think they
ran
were
out of-
victims of
ran
the
out of
of
funding.
the of the crash, because they got their. I look like I have a bruise on my face here. Sorry. They got their funding right before the economic crash, and then their funding went away. So they kind of got screwed by timing and fate, as it were. But anyway, yeah, tubes are what they are. You can make good tubes. There's no secret to doing it. It's not a big deal. Um, it just takes money and time. And when you talk to people about investing that level of money, um, it's hard to convince someone who's not really deep into our business because they go vacuum tubes. What are you talking about? Like, why would you? It's hard to explain to people.
You
So
you can't operate on a small profit margin
yeah,
to make something like that today. In the past, RCA, Sylvania, all
well,
these
but the
companies,
volume was dramatically
it
larger.
was incredibly high
Yeah,
because it was, military were purchasing these things.
but I mean, General Motors put 6v6s in their cars.
Exactly. Yeah, Ford.
Yeah,
Philco radios.
every television made before 1967, 68
Right.
had a tube power section, and so it would be easy for someone to start up a tube factory and go, "Oh, don't worry, we're going to sell 10 million of them,"
Right.
and that would not be a big number. Now, if you sold 10 million tubes, it'd be astonishing. There were 5, 6, 7, 8 companies selling more than that every year back then. So it's a different investment dynamic for people now. So, guys like us who live in the tube world, we go, yeah, what's the problem? Why not? But you got to understand, we're a weird little bunch of people in more ways than one.
Small market.
Yeah. And it's still a very profitable market. It's just hard to explain to someone who goes, well, I haven't used tubes since I was a kid. Who's going to buy that? So, anyway, long answer to a short question there. Do you see a time where tube manufacturers are going out of business? Not really. People have been saying that for 25 years, and tube manufacturing's on the rise right now. There's more and more little tube companies. All the plants in China and Russia are making more tubes every year.
More different more different models come out every
Right.
year.
Well, speaking of which, so Miles tested the new KT150 from Sovtech. There was a little banter going around yesterday on his Facebook page, me and Andy Fuchs. I think I phrased it as I have very high hopes and very low expectations.
And that was met
And
so far.
my experience with every new tube coming out is the repurposing of something that already exists in a really shitty way. And tell us what you found, Miles.
Basically, I'll end up publishing the results, and they'll go back to also new sensor and reflector. But basically, the KT150, they say that a duet of these. There's a note that I posted on my Facebook page with some preliminary stuff and a data sheet. But basically, they say two of these tubes will produce 300 watts. And I thought, well, okay,
Wow, that's a big claim.
you got a 70-watt plate dissipation, so I could see maybe 100 and something watts. But if you try to run them anywhere close to that, they won't work. They won't produce that. It's basically, to me, a 6550, more like a 6550 than a KT anything. KT, kinkless tetrode.
I was going to say, can I jump in with my rant about this?
Yes.
So, a kinkless tetrode, the T in KT means tetrode, which means it has 4 elements. A tube that has 5 elements is called a pentode, right? It's pretty straightforward. These companies are making kinkless tetrodes with 5 elements. So the reason it was called a kinkless tetrode is the initial tetrodes that were made had a little kink in the sine wave when it went through crossover, right at the XY intersection on the scope. And it was kind of a problem, or a perceived problem at least. And so these companies came out with a tetrode that didn't have the kink. The only other known way to get rid of that kink was to put a suppressor grid in the tube, which would kind of just tamp down the blowback off the plate. And so a pentode got rid of the kink. Well, then they came out with a kinkless tetrode, which is sort of really cool because without that suppressor grid, you get a little different frequency response, you get a little different dynamics. The tube's just a little more open, a little wilder, and it's kind of fun. So now there's all these companies, New Sensor, JJ, Shiguang, everybody, they sell kinkless tetrodes that have a suppressor grid on them. So it's as if I was saying to you, I'm selling you a car with 6 cylinders and it has 400 horsepower. And by the way, there's actually 8 cylinders under the hood. It's not It's not a tetrode. It has 5 elements, but it's just marketing. What's the word I'm looking for? Oh, bullshit. Bullshit, I think, is the word I'm looking for. So you kind of get an idea of what the real behind the curtain in the tube business is. They're selling a tube marketed as a kinkless tetrode that is a pentode.
Well,
So,
just like they're putting a Tungsol name on a tube that was never made by Tungsol.
right, that's just
You know,
branding.
but I mean, basically, the tube in the response does have a kink.
So, yeah, here's where it gets funny. Yeah,
Yeah,
you go ahead and tell the rest
and
of
it
the story.
basically does have a kink. On top of that,
It's
normally
kinky.
kinkless KT66s and 88s, if you terminated them in an ultralinear output transformer, the tube would have a really different kind of sound, a really sweet sound, mostly used in hi-fi, not in guitar amps. If these new tubes are terminated in an ultralinear supply load, there is no difference. There is no advantage to doing that. So it doesn't react in any way.
But you said it
So
actually still has the kink.
it still has
Now, a
the kink.
suppressor grid was actually engineered to get rid of the kink at the
No,
crossover level.
basically what I think happened, and this is probably pure BS, pure conjecture. I'm not going to talk about tone or anything like that because that's subjective. But typically, a KT88 when driven into distortion sounds nice to my ears.
I
A
agree.
6550 when driven into distortion sounds raspy, and it's like they sound clean to a certain point and then they just go down the toilet. And they were designed
Right.
for bass amps and things that were supposed to be
Right.
clean.
PA
Or like
systems.
Marshall,
Yeah.
the Marshall 100 waters that came to this country.
Right.
They stayed clean and whatever. This tube to me sounds like somebody said, if we IKEA, they sell a lot of these decorative lamps that go in chandeliers and stuff.
Right.
I bet if we contact the people from IKEA and figure out why they buy where they buy these egg-shaped glass bubbles
Right.
in China, and then stick our 6550 inside,
Mm-hmm.
we can give this thing a new name
Right.
and just have a really high rating on them that people are never going to approach anyway.
Right. We can say, this tube will take 2,000
Exactly.
volts on the plate.
Yeah.
I mean, no one's ever going to be able to prove that.
Because if the tube blows up, if it fails for you, what are you going to do?
Right.
You're not going to be left on hold with New Sensor forever, and they're not going to accept anything back from you. They're going to tell you, go back to your...
Get another pair.
Yeah, you're going to go buy more.
So we had a couple of good questions here. In your opinion, does it pay to buy NOS tubes? It just depends. The NOS market has changed a lot over the past decade. And my experience with NOS and NOS dealers right now is that you're oftentimes not getting real NOS tubes. You're getting tubes that were pulls or rejected years ago. You used to buy NOS tubes and they came in a box and had tissue paper around it with tape, and you were the first guy opening it up. Now it seems, there's a finite number of those around in the world, and it seems like, in the 90s and 2000s, people were hoarding those, really collecting them, doing all sorts of stuff. And
Well, basically,
I don't see a lot of those around. I see a lot of good old tubes.
if the price is low, I'd suspect it. I think the main thing is know your vendor.
Yeah, there's
Um, the-
two that Miles and I use that are great.
Yeah,
I mean,
and-
Doug Preston and Mike Kropotkin.
Yeah, KCA NOS tubes and Doug's Tubes.
Doug'sTubes.com. Those guys wouldn't lie to you if you held a gun to their head.
Mike sells stuff that he calls ANOS, almost
Right.
NOS,
Right.
where he gives you the data and the specs. But basically, if you're somebody like Dan that's making amps, you can't do NOS because
I need
you can't
300 tubes of
you
weed,
can't get
yeah.
all these tubes. But if it's your own amp and your own personal amp,
Right.
NOS is a bargain. For example, on preamp tubes, I've pulled tubes out of amps from the 50s and the 60s.
Yeah, it still
that
sounds
test,
great.
That
Yeah.
test new.
Right.
Well,
So it's kind of a subjective thing, getting to the heart of your question. Most of the time, NOS tubes are going to sound better. I think the expectation when you buy NOS tubes is I'm buying something that's much more reliable, much more long-lived, etc. And often that's the case. But with the kind of stuff that's left in the market today, sometimes it's not the case. So if you can get someone who'll thoroughly test the tube, like curve trace it. Transconductance is just opening the door on testing a tube. You want to see if it curve traces correctly. All of the elements are correct. Is there enough plate resistance? Is it drawing enough current? All these sorts of things. Miles can go into very great detail about that. But new old stock means it was sitting on the shelf and no one ever used it. And so the biggest red flag for me is when you see a vendor say it tests NOS. You know what the test for an NOS tube is? It hasn't been opened yet. That's the test for an NOS tube. NOS is not a rating. NOS is not a quality statement. NOS means it's new old stock, which has a literal definition. It's stock from someone's store that they never sold. There's only one kind of NOS tube, so you get a lot of tubes test NOS. You can tell the paint's gone on the tube. It's not in the original packaging. It might be a fantastic tube, but be careful when you see things like that say test NOS. Because that doesn't mean anything.
Basically, if somebody has questions, feel free to contact me if you're here in the LA area and you ever want me to fire up a curve tracer and test your stuff. I'm happy to do that for friends of Dan's and friends of the show at no charge. Other people
thanks,
I
Miles.
charge a fortune.
This is a great question here. Are EL34s the same as EL84s?
No. No.
They're very different tubes. They're except for one number, though. They're very similar. But EL84 is a very small tube that I think was meant to sound like an EL34.
Right. It was supposed to sound as close to an EL34 in a small bottle.
Yeah.
As
So anyway, before we get like really, really long here, I want everyone to meet Ben. Yeah. Thanks, Miles.
That's right. Yeah.
That's our tube rant for the day. And then, so now, this is my friend Ben Fulton. Hi, Ben.
Hello, hello.
How are you, brother? It's always so good to see you. Do you guys know Ben Fulton? Ben runs a company called Red Witch Pedals out of New Zealand. Only they say Reed Witch Pedals.
Red Witch Pedals.
Yeah, you're getting good. I remember the
Red
first
Witch
first couple of years I said that to you. You'd go, "What do you mean, Reed Witch Pedals?" And I go, "No, Red Witch."
We've had enough comments on YouTube.
Oh, you got to go already?
Yeah, go.
Oh, you got your thing. Oh, everybody say goodbye to Howard. Sorry, Howard, we didn't get a chance to talk. Yeah, I'll see you soon. I might be over there tonight. Oh, yeah, take that with you. Take the power cord. Yeah, there you go. And you're all good.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
Thanks, man. I'm sorry we didn't get to talk at all today. Ben has Red Witch pedals, which if you guys know Red Witch. See, now I want to say Reed Witch.
Reed Witch.
Reed Witch pedals.
He's Australian though. Reed Witch.
Yeah.
We say Reed Witch.
I had to put a dunny in the, what is it? Yeah. No, put a brown snake in the dunny. What do they say?
I'm gonna have to just let you have that one.
Oh, you can't make fun of Australians, can you?
We can totally.
I mean, I thought you guys had this great.
It's like Americans and Canadians.
Well, yeah, or like English and the French.
Yeah.
It's like
Well, no, I think it's a little different.
less venom than that. Yeah.
We've never been at war with this.
See, we don't make fun of Canadians, though. They make fun of us.
No. Well, you kind of do a little bit.
Well, a little bit, eh?
People get it when they say, "Oh, you're from Australia." I say, "Oh, no, I'm from New Zealand, but you're from Canada." They're like, yeah.
Well, we Canadians are also nice. We just have a hard time. There's no like negative Canadian stereotype. Like my favorite Canadian joke: how do you make a Canadian apologize to you? Step on his foot. And they, oh, I'm sorry. Was I in the way? Oh, I'm sorry.
On his boot.
Yeah, on his boot. Boot.
Out in the boot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no,
well, let me come back to my host.
Australians, and so we, that's
Oh,
what-
you guys get along
Yeah,
great,
yeah,
don't you?
Yeah.
Absolutely. But they were prisoners, right? And
They
never
were.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah, they all came on a boat for stealing bread and things like that.
They came in chains,
They slaughtered the indigenous people, and
like you do.
yeah.
We have a history of that also.
Well, it's actually Waitangi Day today in New Zealand.
What is that?
It's the celebration,
Come closer.
commemoration of the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi, which was the agreement between the Crown and the indigenous people, the Maori, who
Right.
who did a better job of sticking up to the English than
Oh,
the
right.
original people. The Original people were
But
a little more peace.
the
peaceful.
Maori, they're just badass, though, aren't they?
Well, they were warrior people. They stuck up for themselves, and they fought amongst themselves. And then when the English arrived,
They all solidified, huh?
some joined the English, and some sort of fought them, but they certainly stood up for themselves a lot more so than the Aboriginal people. So
Right.
today's the the commemoration. I wouldn't necessarily say the celebration, because there's still people who
Yeah.
still it's a lot of things that were promised didn't come through, shall we say?
Well, there's still time.
There is, and
Yeah.
the thing is that there are settlements. There's a tribunal, and there's still settlements that are going on. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, there you go.
So on to foot pedals.
Yeah, I can't read any of that because I
Oh, you don't have your
I
glasses
don't have
on.
my glasses on.
Howard Johnson is right. Someone says. R.J. Sanders, what's a difference between 34s and 34Ls? Just look it up go to duncanamps.com, and they have all the spec sheets you can read. Google's probably a better source for that than me.
There's no difference between a 34 and a 34L.
I think it's because the L is at the end.
Well, there's the E.
It's an E34L or an EL34.
Yeah, there's the E34LS, which has
It's just letters.
heavier plate structure,
Right.
but only one company sold those.
In reality, for a guitar player, not a whole lot. Bob Dragich says a haka dance is just a luau with weapons. I'm not sure about that. They are somewhat related,
Well,
though.
luau, isn't that a welcoming?
Well, luau is
Haka-
a party.
Yeah,
Haka's a
haka's
war
more-
thing.
oh, it's sort of like we're going to
We're going to kill you now.
damage you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is the last thing you'll see.
Yes.
Take a picture because this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's talk about Red Witch pedals.
Sure.
So, wow, I'm killing the mic there. Okay, I can step back a little bit. I'm sorry, guys, if I was blowing your head off there. I had to crank up the system for Miles, who was mumbling into the microphone.
Do you want me to step back a little bit?
No, you're great. Actually, look, see there. You see the blue thing there?
Ah,
That's good. So you're actually quieter than I am,
yeah.
and I've got you cranked.
Correct.
So it's like the old days of radio.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Radio voice.
so Ben does all kinds of fantastic pedals, of which I have. But my favorite thing that he does is the Seven Sisters. They sound really cool because Ben's a great designer. But the coolest thing that he did that I think is just brilliant is the power supply and the charging system for these pedals. And Ben, you can explain it better than I can. So
Sure.
tell me how it works.
Well,
And we have one here.
yeah, we've actually got the newest pedal. I'll bring it into camera in a second.
You can say pedal. It's
pedal. You give me a complex.
No, it's a good thing. We're enjoying it. We're not making fun of you.
YouTube. You look at the Redwitch YouTube stream in the comments. There's like half of them are talking about how great the pedals are and people like the sound of them, and the other half is like, is this Jermaine from Flight of the Conchords? Pedals. And
Oh, yeah, that's right.
yes, New Zealand.
Fly, yeah. Yeah, your New Zealand accent's not super strong.
No.
Especially you've been over here like 3 weeks now, and I can tell it's
Settling in.
you're getting tired of talking about your accent, aren't you?
Right this moment. It's all right. So anyway, the power supply and the Seven Sisters, they're the world's first rechargeable pedal range, and they have I'll write that if you like.
I'll hold it up here while you're talking.
This is actually not part of the Seven Sisters range, though. This is the newest pedal
Oh,
that
okay.
I've designed, and it's in the same size format as the Seven Sisters.
system.
It's got the same charging system,
Yeah.
but it's the first in the original Chrome series. So it's in the same size box as the Seven Sisters. It's just got more functionality to it, and it's a delay. It's called Violetta. It has modulation. It offers 1,000 milliseconds of delay, and it's got a little socket on the side of it, which takes an adapter plug that comes with the pedal that allows you to connect a Moog EP3 foot controller, which controls
Oh, nice.
the repeats.
And
yeah,
the charging socket.
and as Dan said, it's got the charging circuitry, the same as the Seven Sisters. And what that is it's got a lithium-ion cell
Is
inside.
this the cell?
No, that's the adapter plug.
Oh,
for
that's
your-
oh, okay.
Yeah, the cell's already inside the pedal.
That's already there. Okay.
So yeah, basically it comes with a lithium-ion cell inside the pedal, and it comes with all the charging circuitry inside the pedal, so you can run it off your
Great
9
packaging
volt
too.
supply.
Who does your packaging?
I designed it.
Really?
Yeah.
So I like this. It's really
Yeah.
well done.
It's very.
As
silky.
speaking as a
It's
fellow
silky.
manufacturer, you know.
Yeah, the cardboard, the paper is very silky.
Yeah, it's just. So anyway, have another look.
So it's got the battery cell inside it and the charging circuitry inside it. So you don't need a special charger. You can run it off your standard Wall-Wart 9 volt DC regulated supply with a 2.1 millimeter plug. So a Voodoo Lab power supply or Boss PSA, and you charge it for 12 hours when you first get it, and then after that it's 4 hours for a charge. And
So you
depending on
can make like a nice little pedal board. You built me a fly board of this a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You charge it up once, you can go play a gig or two, and then just plug it back in overnight or whatever, and then you've got this pedal board without cables.
Well, there's a couple of things with the Seven Sisters range, like the delay, because delays are power hungry. This will run for about 12 hours off a charge.
Yeah.
Whereas they say in the Seven Sisters range, the fuzz or the clean boost will last for up to 300 hours.
Wow.
Off a 4-hour charge. And the other thing that's kind of cool about it is
We need a solar cell.
because there's a bunch of, it's an option. Maybe we could do it.
For a certain fee, we'll make it happen. Yeah.
Everything's possible.
That's right.
Just leave it on the roof of your car.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, yeah. When you're going out on your trip, just strap it to the roof when you get to the gig. Oh, got my pedals all charged up.
Nice. The one other thing which is different about the Seven Sisters range and this, the first of the original Chrome series, is that there's a bunch of pedals out there which have a small format box.
Yes.
But we're the only people that are doing it with the sockets on the top.
Right.
Because you see, there's a lot of people who say, well, look at our incredibly small pedal. But
Right.
the moment you put right-angle jacks...
It's
or
as
heaven
big as
forbid-
any other pedal.
Well,
Yeah.
it'll double the size of it with
Right.
the spacing. So having the jack sockets at the top means you can just patch it up
Right.
next to each other, and because they're rechargeable, you don't have to have the power supply hooked up.
Right.
So on a pedal train nano board, you can have all 7 of the Seven Sisters
On a board this big.
And
Yeah.
I know a bunch of guys who do that, who fly out for a single gig somewhere in another country.
Right.
They just bring it on as carry-on luggage with the guitar.
You put it in your purse with your Ventura head, and you're all set.
There you go.
You're a traveling musician.
With tone.
But it's digital power, though. I mean, it's that lithium-ion cell. It's cleaner.
Well, yeah, basically it's got a little tiny chip inside it that is the same sort of thing you find in cell phones and iPhones, iPads, digital lithium-ion powered cameras. So that takes care of all the power stuff. The actual pedal is being run constantly from the actual cell. The cell is being charged, so that's when you have it plugged in, it's charging the battery. So the battery, it's actually it's isolated from the mains.
Yeah.
Regulator as well, so it's
But it gives you cleaner, quieter
exactly,
power, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And a more even distribution curve instead of voltage dropping and dropping.
Well,
And
that's a really good point. With lithium-ion cells versus, say, alkaline,
they're just on or
carbon,
off, right?
Exactly.
There's no decline.
Yeah, because the
right?
cell has a circuitry inside it, in any lithium-ion cell, where it just cuts off
Gotta come
past a certain once it drops beneath a certain voltage. Within the cell, it shuts off, so
Right.
it doesn't suddenly get lower and lower like a carbon cell, and a fuzz pedal is going to drift.
Yeah, yeah.
You start
Unless
getting
you're
nice
Eric
hits.
Johnson, who has to have all of his alkaline batteries at 7.2 volts, which is difficult because they stay that way for like 20 minutes.
Yeah, you
Um,
can just put a very low value resistor in series with,
Or
power
just an
supply
external
too.
power supply
Well, there's that as well.
that you could regulate. These pedals are cool, unless you're Eric Johnson.
Well, I don't know. I don't know whether anyone's given Eric one of these. He
That's
might-
true.
he
We
might
have to
love
make
it.
sure.
This one just got the editor's pick for the next issue of Guitar Player magazine.
Oh,
so
nice.
Pretty.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
People seem to be enjoying it because it's a really pretty sounding delay.
And then who's selling these in the U.S.?
Because
Because you must be employing everyone in your hometown in New Zealand to make these pedals, right?
Well, the centre of operations is just north of Wellington, where we have an office,
Yeah.
and I'm based there. And then we've got our general manager who's based down in Queenstown.
Oh, yeah.
But the lost my train of thought now.
Ben drove in from Las Vegas this morning just to come say hi. So be forgiving if he's a little tired.
I'm not really that tired.
Well, it's like a 5-hour drive.
Yeah. Oh well, it was amazing actually.
So it's kind of fun drive.
I had Niels Henning Orsted Peterson playing through some of it. Are you familiar with him?
No?
He was a bass player. He was from the Netherlands.
What does he play now? Clarinet?
He plays quietly. He passed on.
He's deed?
He's dead. But no, he played with Miles Davis. He played with a bunch of people. But he did this
nice.
great album called "Songs for My Homeland," and it's beautiful. It's a trio album. It's piano, him, and a drummer.
That sounds very comforting.
They're gorgeous. And there's
Yeah.
a song called Jig Gik, which you should YouTube, JEGGIK. And it's awesome. It's that because when sort of European jazz can get a little bit
Yeah.
what's his name, Jacques Lussier, which makes me want to put red hot needles in my eyeballs.
Yeah.
But this Niels Henning Orsted Peterson was the other.
Yeah,
end of the
European
spectrum.
jazz kind of tends to get a little mathematical.
Well, his stuff is beautiful. It's the good end of the spectrum. So
Right.
that was amazing watching the sun rise above the desert, listening to that. quite lovely.
It's a fun drive. I've done it many times. You don't want to do it too often, but
No.
if you space it out a few years apart, then it's actually, oh, this is great.
I went to catch up with a friend of mine who's living out there from New Zealand. He and his wife.
Gotta
and
come
they're
closer. Sorry.
closer. I can't
There
believe
you go.
Victor. Closer.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I've got a friend of mine who's a school buddy, and he's become quite a successful artist. He makes his living from creating art. He said he's one of the 4 full-time artists in Las Vegas. So I went
Wow,
to catch
one of
up
the
with him.
4. They're
One of
on
the
like
4.
what 6-hour shifts.
But he's great. He's doing really, really well, and I haven't seen him in a number of years. So it was good to catch up with him. We did a drive down the strip and saw all of the bright lights and things. But
Yeah.
it was a flyby sort of visit.
Well, I'm glad that Vegas is not like how you know the United States. It's one of the worst things
I've
for
never been there
Americans. But I talked to all these Europeans, and a lot of whom are, whatever reason, very down on the U.S., and that's their problem. But they go, oh, no, I know the U.S. I go to NAM, I've been to Vegas, and I've been to Disney World.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know absolutely nothing about, you know how we take Europeans' money. That's all you know. You know absolutely nothing about the country. So it's great because I know you've been all over the country.
Yeah. I've
You've
a lot
spent
of
your time
there.
in the South and the Midwest and the West Coast and the East Coast. And
Yeah.
um,
No, I've seen many lovely things.
most Americans are kind of turned off by Vegas.
Yeah.
But, and I can do Vegas for about 24 hours.
Yeah. I was there, I think, for about 36.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you go the first night, I think this is how my day goes in Vegas. I get all dressed up, nice hotel. I say, look, I'm going to take $250 or $200, $500, whatever the disposable income is. And this is all I'm going to gamble with. And then after that, I'm going to do culturally rich things. So I get over to Treasure Island or Caesar's Palace about 9 o'clock, buy some chips, go to the craps table, start gambling. 28 minutes later, I'm broke. And then I go out and start doing other stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, is that your experience?
Well, I'm not a gambler. Like I've pretty much had every other vice, which I hung up some years ago. And,
Right.
But gambling just never been a thing for me. So I
get
have to admit I didn't partake. We just looked at stuff.
Well, the part of that killed it for me is when I was in college, I had to take a lot of stat classes because I studied economics pretty hard. And one semester, I had a visiting teacher who was in from China who was an obsessive compulsive gambler. And his English wasn't very good. And so all we did was study gambling odds and rackets and how to do Keno and, like horse betting, off-track betting. I learned every aspect of gambling from the actual mathematical perspective. And the thing that you get the most out of that is you don't have a chance in hell of winning. There's only 2 games in the casino that you have any chance of winning whatsoever, and it's craps and poker. And the only reason you have a chance to win at poker is because you can quit. You can say, I fold.
Well, my friend was telling me that he has a buddy there who actually is a professional gambler, and that's what he does. And he when he got started, he got backers, and I think he's playing at sort of 60,000.
And you watch those guys; they play the most conservative.
Yeah. Oh, he was.
I have a couple friends here that go down to casinos and play poker and make $700-800 a night, and man, they don't bet on anything.
Well, my friend was saying that what he does is they'll go in and they'll look at the people they're playing, and then he'll make a calculation for how long they'll play for.
Yeah.
Which.
But they just wait until they get a good hand and they bet ass loads of money on it, but the hands that you think are good really aren't that good. 3 of a kind means nothing. You've got like a 1 in 16 chance of winning. It's just crazy. Anyway, we'll talk about gambling later. So,
Ben, are you going to be?
So-
how long are you here for?
Probably shooting out tomorrow, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, at this stage.
back to New Zealand.
Back to
So,
New
what else should we know about Redwitch while you're here?
I
I mean, you've got. Tell us about your
Okay.
large pedals.
Okay,
What-
we've got the premium ranges we refer to them, which we've got. There's 16 total pedals that we make. So there's
16. Wow.
there's 8 premiums. And
Yeah.
and then there's the seven sisters.
That's 15.
Yep. Plus Violetta. Plus Violetta
Oh yeah.
makes 16. I was doing that.
Since you're in
calculation
Southern
too.
California, I think you need to say Violetta.
Violetta. I've heard a lot of people saying that at the NAMM show.
Violetta.
I don't mind. You can call it what you like,
You have to do the little timely pause.
as long as you buy it.
Violetta.
Yeah, Violetta. Yeah, so we've got 8 premium pedals. The first pedal I designed was the Moon Phaser.
Right.
That was 12 years ago.
Right.
And we have a chorus pedal, which kind of was sort of integral in the company getting a bigger profile.
You always have some interesting tweaky controls on your pedal. It's
Well,
not just like level and
no.
amount.
The thing is,
You
when
always have some nice shades to what you do.
when I started designing, I sort of realized that it's the same effort it takes to come up to actually produce and manufacture something that's your original design as it would be to produce something which is an emulation or very similar to something
Right.
someone else has done. So I wanted to do stuff that was original. And I was a guitar player for 8 years. That was what I did for a living. And so,
Right.
I was aware
But you're
that
still gigging all the time,
I'm
aren't
still
you?
playing. But you know how it is. Guitar players, we're quite regressive. We like
Yeah.
what's been before, and we like to have that palette of sounds available to us. So, what I sort of decided to do was create pedals which offered the sort of sounds you'd expect or you'd be looking for from that,
Yeah.
plus some other functions that you can't get anywhere else, but that are actually usable.
Absolutely,
No
yeah.
point putting bells and whistles. So, the Empress Chorus, which was, as I say, was one which was quite integral in lifting our profile when Andy Summers used it for the Police reunion.
Right.
The big differentiator with that one is that it has the voice control, and the voice control allows you to change the delay time.
Mm-hmm.
And the delay time is the thing which really differentiates one chorus pedal from another. So,
Yeah.
for instance, the classic TC chorus is a really short delay time, modulated delay time, so it's very sparkly and shimmery,
Excuse me.
through to a Boss C1, which is a really long delay, a much longer delay time, so it has a really swampy sort of sound.
It almost gets flangery. doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what you can do with the voicing control is you can actually dial in the delay time.
You can modulate the modulation.
Well, you can determine the distance from the modulated signal.
I was trying to come up with a marketing phrase there.
I know.
You
but
can modulate the modulate. Does that work?
Well, you're shifting. You can move the modulation. There you go. That's it. Shift it. Move the modulation.
Just go with me,
We'll
Ben.
get some alliteration.
Just play with me on this.
You can't tell people incorrect untruths. We've got to be honest. We're not. Who are you talking about?
What are you
before?
talking about?
KT what?
KT94s. They're
They're
just
the same as 6L6s, aren't they?
they're exactly. You know what the difference is? The spelling.
Yeah.
That's it.
There's a king.
No, what it's no the KT94 is exactly the same as the 12AX7.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a whole nother show we'll get into next week.
Nice.
But in a blimp-sized bottle.
Yeah.
In a blimp-sized bottle.
Is it like a brandy glass?
I was going to name an actress, never mind. But who used to be and then turned
This
into
is a family show, isn't it?
Point of view, if you get a glass cutter,
yes.
Mm-hmm.
and when you have a bad JJ EL34 tube,
Uh-huh.
as in used up, if you cut off the base and remove the internals so you're just left with the glass, that is leaded crystal because of where it's made in that region of what was Czechoslovakia.
Right.
And it fits perfectly in the base holder of a VW Beetle. So you can put your flower in a leaded crystal vase.
You heard it here.
Miles.
Wow.
God bless him.
That's
And
I've learned something.
you can have a poisonous vessel for your flowers in your
Absolutely.
car.
Die, flower, die.
There's leaded crystal glasses.
Yeah, there are. I mean, I don't think it's. Never mind. It might not be. I don't know if they make those anymore, do they? Or,
Yeah.
really? You can buy leaded crystal, have a little arsenic in it.
Little pipe.
Yeah, exactly. It's got a lot of mercury too. It's fine.
Bring them together, they glow.
Where the sand comes from.
That's true. That's true. Well, anyway, so check out Red Witch pedals. I like them. They got a good beat. You can dance to them. But anyway, you should know Ben because he's the guy that designs everything. And Ben's one of the most fun guys in the business, and we've been friends for years now. And
Man.
it's all good, baby. But it's getting kind of late. I think we should wrap it up. We've kind of got into the mass of discussion here. Do you guys want to hear the whiskey again for a minute, or should we just wait till next week? What do you think? Is anybody there? Bueller? Thanks, Ben. There's about a 10 or 15 second delay here, so
Nice.
you can just berate somebody and they can't respond.
For 15 seconds.
Yeah,
It's like in New Zealand.
And then you just-
berate someone today and they don't get it till tomorrow.
it's late.
I could say something mean to my mum, but I wouldn't because it's her birthday.
Yeah, no, it's like I wrote you a letter on the
Yeah.
5th and you didn't respond until the 6th.
24 hours.
What
It's
the?
2014.
What the feek?
Protocol.
Yeah.
Common decency has gone out the window.
Okay, we'll do the whiskey again for a minute just to say goodbye. But thanks for coming, Ben. I love you, man. It's so good having you here. I never get to
Thanks,
see
Dan.
Ben. We talk on Facebook and everything else. Hey, could you do me a big favor?
Mm-hmm.
Could you grab me that guitar?
I can do that.
And have all your coworkers gone home already?
Mine.
Darren and Tracy.
Yeah, they both. No, Darren's. If any of you were at the NAM show, you will have seen our guy Darren, who was demoing the pedals.
Who's just this lovely
He's
guy.
a lovely man. He's a fantastic player too.
Right.
He's a very, very nice player. I remember actually the year that we were sharing a booth, 3 years ago.
3-4 years ago. Oh, I just love Darren.
At the end of the show, because by the end of the NAM show, everyone's sick of people playing guitar. And what was the guy's name who was with the Tone Pros guys? He was doing,
Dwight?
he's Ted Nugent's guy.
Oh, Derek St. Holmes.
That's right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to put people's names. He came up to Darren and was just wonderfully complimentary about his playing.
Derek's a cool guy.
Yeah,
so.
he played. Anyway, Darren's down south now with his lady. I think they're in New Orleans, or maybe they're in Boston. Somewhere south of here.
That'd be a good place for Darren. I think he'd feel very at home in New Orleans.
I think he's been playing some gigs down there.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, hell, that's fantastic.
That's cool. And Tracy, she headed home on Friday, back to her family and stuff. She's working.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So anyway, well, we're sorry to see you go, Ben. I really think you need to open up an office in Los Angeles.
There has been some talk.
You need a U.S. base here
There has been some talk, and it would be
because it's quite a travail to get here every time you got to do
yeah,
business, right?
It's a 12-hour hop, skip, and a jump.
Is it only 12?
Yeah, it's 12 hours there, 12. Oh, a little longer, 12 and a half, because they've changed the planes. They were using 747s, now they're using the 777-300.
Well, they're all flying slower now to save fuel too.
Yeah,
So.
exactly.
That way they can afford to charge you more for the ticket. Two-shot swing, as they say in golf. All right, well, let's do a little... Problem is I boosted the whole board here. Hang on a second. Get where I don't blow your head off. There, you can hear it. You can't really hear it out here, can you? You don't get the detail. I mean, those are cans, so they're a little bit, crispy. Here, Brett, listen to that through the headphones. It sounds great.
Came in. Huh,
Oh, yeah.
sounds like something I might enjoy.
This is something you could actually use.
Ah,
Yeah. Through my 112, no less. Not bad, huh?
yeah.
A lot better than the last time,
That
right?
sounds great.
Yeah, it's a lot better than the last
That's
time.
excellent. Through here.
Yeah, sure. Hang on one sec.
Mute 4.
Uh, Was I destroying Ustream there? Sorry. It's hard. It won't reach for it. It does. Yeah. Oh, it's Ben's powers. Yeah, there you go. These are some of Brett's other high gain amps. Lots of Wizards, Diesel, Bogner, Cameron.
Yeah.
A couple of 65s over there.
So he's kind of a high gain.
A few. Not
Oh,
a couple.
wait a minute. Now you're looking at my belly. Tilt it up a little bit.
Oh, this is a really nice.
There you go. That'll work.
Cool little pedal.
All right, I better call it a day here.
Good delay. That's cool. So you make
And,
pedals.
they have this lithium ion cell. You recharge them, and then you can do your gigs without any cables hooked up to
How
them.
cool is that?
It's perfect.
Wow.
All right, fellas.
It's like
Well,
something you'd find at like the pleasure chest, you know?
The pleasure chest. Here's a name for a pedal company.
yeah, I like that.
We make pedals and strippers.
Yeah, that's what the pleasure chest is all about.
Cool, man.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for coming. It's February 5th, 2014. I'm Dan Boul. Thank you, Brett Chasen and Bob Kulick. And thanks to my brother Ben for coming by. Thanks for Miles Rose, Howard Johnson. I'm sorry you didn't make it. Our apologies to Matt Damon. We'll try to fit you on next week.
Howard Johnson was right.
Howard Johnson was right. He's always right. Once again, Matt Damon came and we ran out of time.
Yep.
We couldn't get him on.
Yep.
So,
Rodney here.
which one?
Rodney came by, huh?
Dangerfield?
Yeah.
Yeah. He smelled, too. He really smelled. It was awful. Anyway, love you guys. I'll see you next Wednesday. I'll bring the whiskey back, and I'll have my other new
Back?
212,
What do you
hopefully.
mean back? Where's it go?
What do you mean back? Hey,
Where's
guys
it
got to
go?
use this.
Franklin's studio.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Love you. Bye.